Now, for the second story of today's second story, man, I got back from South Carolina and I had the AC turned off and everything. I turned it back on, and now the AC is all not as pumping as I would like it to be right now. So bear with me as I try to stay clean here. But the second story of the day. Now, I think the red team really needs some help when it comes to Kamala Harris. Okay. I really think so. Because I think there's a lot of opportunity for them to be more efficient in some of the conversations that they're trying to have. Right. And so Ann Coulter, she was on C-SPAN and she was talking about, she's back in the Trump. She's back publicly saying she's going to vote for Trump. She's been a big Trump detractor over the past few years, but in comparison to the blue team, she's definitely still going to vote for Trump, but she's highly critical. But she brought up this conversation around Kamala Harris of whether or not whether she's Black. But the question is she foundational Black American? Does she advocate for or have foundational Black American people at the heart of her policies? Is she looking out for our particular population? This is something that she faced when she was running for president in the primaries. She's received a lot of criticism for some of the ways in which she prosecuted as the DA. But Ann Coulter brought this up. And let's listen to how Ann Coulter talks about this.
Constitutional rights to freedom of contract, constitutional rights to freedom of contract, freedom of association. All of that was to make up for the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow. So unless these benefits are going to, roughly defined, foundational Black Americans, the descendants of American slaves, you've taken away the whole purpose of this.
She's making a point that I personally agree with. like the Civil Rights Act was for Jim Crow, right? The 13th Amendment was the 13th Amendment was to free slaves unless they're incarcerated, right? So the descendants of the enslaved in this country are different than just Black people from other countries that come here. That's not a controversial take. We're not immigrants. There's only two populations that aren't immigrants: Indigenous people and foundational Black Americans. We didn't come here for opportunity. We were the opportunity. And we were, we've been taken advantage of literally by every population in one way or the other, right? Especially when you get to the Immigration Act and when you get to, different equality laws that were fought for and set in place because of foundational Black Americans. A lot of times we tend to not be able to be the full beneficiaries of those because of how they've been executed in different ways. I don't know how long Ann Coulter has heard this term, foundational Black Americans. I think that she's been seeing viral conversations because Ann Coulter's never made this point. Even when Barack Obama was in office, Ann Coulter wasn't saying this point. They could have said this with Obama. Obama, the first Black president, missed slavery twice. Could have said it then. I think that they're jumping on a wave here, but I'm pointing out what she's talking about.
And that is exactly what's happened once we got this huge load of immigrants. Now, a Thai who arrived on Wednesday will get an advantage applying to college, applying to corporations over a heterosexual white male in particular. That's the biggest hate group. But
okay, all right. This is where I disagree with her, right? Whatever point she's making, she's using it to say people are discriminating against white people. Just pay attention.
Any white American and all of the civil rights laws have been, and affirmative action and so on, have been twisted into just anti-white hatred and open, egregious discrimination. So to make the point that Kamala isn't a foundational Black American. I'm always pointing out to Black people, hey, have you noticed Indians are getting all the good diversity jobs? What did we do to Indians? We didn't enslave them. Most of these immigrants coming in, most are from 90% of legal immigrants are from the third world. And mostly we've just run around saving them from earthquakes and tornadoes and coups and starvation.
I mean, and also bombing them and also using the CIA to disrupt their their own elections. I think a pretty good way to stop this quote unquote immigrant crisis is to leave South America alone. Let them have their stop destabilizing their nations. They're not going to try to run here.
They owe us, we don't owe them. But to switch from the concept of integration and civil rights for Black Americans to this BSE diversity, it's nothing but discrimination against white people. And that point should be made not just to, as I think Trump is always thinking, oh, he's going to win the black vote. He's not going to win the black vote. You ought to do things because they're the right thing to do, not because this is an appeal to black people, like releasing criminals. He thinks he's going to get the black vote by being soft on crime.
It's actually, you're going to get the rich vote by being soft on certain types of crime. They want to get rid of 80,000 IRS agents. Who is that for? Who's going to benefit when you get rid of 80,000 IRS agents? People with tax shelters. It's just, he is going to be soft on crime, but it's not downstream crime. Okay, it's white collar crime. It's institutionalized crime. It's when the police mess up, our tax dollars pay for it. There's no accountability type crime.
Anyway, not only to point out to Black Americans that their history is being stolen by immigrants, but to remind white Americans that this whole diversity thing is just discrimination against them. You still want to vote for the Democrats?
Yeah, so this is her point, and I think she garbled that all the way up. I think there's very clear, I don't think the way to get Black people to stay at home, which has to be the angle here, right? Because she isn't the first person on the red team to start using foundational Black American. She's not. Like, it's coming up in CNN debates. A lot of people on the red team are pointing this out. This is a talking point for them. So she's using this. The messaging is so garbled. On one hand, she's, I guess, speaking to Black people by mentioning foundational Black Americans at all, by mentioning how other immigrants are taking advantages of rights fought for and enshrined through the efforts of foundational Black Americans. But the biggest losers in the journey to equality is white people, is now racist against white people. I don't think that, I don't know who she's clearly speaking to in this situation. I think she's better off having Yvette Carnell or whoever's having these conversations talk about this. I think having Tariq Nasheed talk about this will be impactful for whatever their aim is. I mean, clearly there's a huge enthusiasm gap between Trump and Kamala. I can always tell when there's an enthusiasm gap whenever Trump is arguing or complaining about crowd sizes. Last week, he said that Kamala's crowd sizes were AI. AI. I think they have a point here. There really is a difference. America is an immigrant nation, and it legislates that way, it governs that way, it exacts rights that way. And we forget that not everybody's an immigrant. Indigenous people aren't immigrants. Foundational Black Americans aren't immigrants. And I guess there's the colonizers who are complaining about anti-white racism. I don't think that this is going to land effectively anywhere. I don't know if it lands effectively anywhere. Because the idea would be to get low voter turnout. And I think hearing Ann Coulter describe foundational Black Americans somehow being less of a loser than white people isn't going to keep them from keep us from showing up to the polls. Not in the face of everything, all the energy that the Kamala Harris campaign has around them. I think they should reach out to Yvette Carnell. I think they need to reach out to Tariq Nasheed to have these conversations. Because I think that there are a lot of very potent, powerful voices, foundational Black American voices, who have a lot of criticism and express it well when it comes to how no one actually does anything specifically for our community. One of those people is Ice Cube. Ice Cube is one of those people. Check out Ice Cube.
Yo, what's up? This your homie Ice Cube. Here to talk to my Black folks. You know, I just want to be straight up because there's a lot of messages going out about this election. First and foremost, anybody telling you that you gotta vote, that it's your duty, that you have to exercise the right, and that people died for you to vote. For one, people did die, but nobody walked out their house to go die for you to vote. They were killed by probably some racists that don't want to see us get anything. But I'm saying that to say this. Be skeptical of anybody telling you to vote and not telling you to ask for anything, or to tell you to just vote and not to get anything for your vote. That's not how it works. That's not the process. You don't vote just to vote. You vote because you're getting something or your community is getting something. So everybody that's telling you that, man, look at them and say, what are you getting? Because people that just want you to vote and not ask for nothing, people that's in power that want you to vote but don't want you to get anything or not asking for you to get anything economically, they suspect, straight up. Because a lot of people been in place for a long time and we ain't got shit. That shit gonna end. That shit gonna end. We gonna get what we supposed to get. Period. And anybody asking you not to ask, I wouldn't listen to them. Because that's the process. Every community asks for what they want. And we're going to do the same goddamn thing.
Now, let's see. I hope Ice Cube can lead a charge on that. I know Tariq has a ton of ideas. I know that Tariq and Yvette, they're both out there leading. There's a huge reparations push, not even just Tariq and Yvette. That is a huge... what's the best way I heard that described? It's a debt that's owed. Okay, it's a debt that's owed. We do reparations for communities all the time. It's a debt that's owed. But that's an example of something specific that always gets ignored. I mean, Kamala literally said, with like a shrug and a smirk in a nasty way, to be honest, to quote Trump, you think I'm going to do something just for Black people? No. That is an energy that works. That would be effective. If you're trying to do what Coulter sounds like she's trying to do, drive a wedge through different Black communities, drive a wedge between Black people and everyone else that's in this blue tent that we're forced to be in because the red team are Confederates. I got to an argument with this guy the other day. He's like, oh, well, the Democrats were the ones who were the Confederates. I'm like, the South is still the same. He's like, how do you know that? I'm like, I'm in South Carolina right now. My high school's biggest rival is called Wayne Hampton High School, after the Confederate general. Okay, I don't care what shirts they're wearing. That region's the same thing. If you're trying to drive a wedge, have people who are more effective at talking about this than Coulter and saying the white people are the ones that are harmed the worst. That's terrible. Have more people like Jamal Trulove. Jamal Trulove just did an interview with Art of Dialogue, right? Jamal Trulove just did an interview with Art of Dialogue. Okay, who's Jamal Trulove? Jamal Trulove was a man who was wrongly convicted of murder in San Francisco, and Kamala Harris was the DA who prosecuted her, right? Alex Ryman Oh, here it is. Police arrested Trulove for the 2007 murder of his friend Siu Kuka, who was shot in public in a public housing project in San Francisco. Trulove was convicted in 2010 and sentenced to 50 years to life in prison. But a California appeals court overturned that conviction in 2014 and ordered a new trial. He was acquitted in a retrial in 2015. Trulove's attorney said police manipulated a witness into misidentifying Trulove as the shooter. Police manipulated a witness into misidentifying Trulove as the shooter. The police officers named in the lawsuit have retired, and none were disciplined for their actions in the case. Okay, that's who Trulove is. I mean, he's an actor. He was in The Last Black Man. It's The Last Black Man in San Francisco. Is that what it's called? Yeah, the movie The Last Black Man in San Francisco, which is a hilarious title. But he was on The Art of Dialogue, and he was describing his experience in the courtroom with Kamala Harris. Listen to this.
Yeah, we ended up losing. And after I lost, got convicted, whether the sentence came in, you know, obviously the courtroom is full. I know who this lady Kamala Harris is, right? People in the projects knew who she was because she was a Black district attorney. And we thought that we had a Black district attorney in office, right? And who we perceived to be Black, right? That's from Oakland. And that's all we kind of knew. And we would think that, that she would, be a little bit more favorable to us. Now, during my trial, I didn't even think of this lady, just in general. I just knew that she was the head DA. They never came and tried to talk to me or anything of the sort, right? It was strictly, you did this, we charging you, you're going down. So at my preliminary, on verdict day, I remember seeing her in the back when I walked in, and when they laid down announced that I was, convicted for first-degree murder, which I already knew I was convicted because the jury asked a question to the bailiff, that they give like these questions to be clear to the judge or whatever it may be, and we get to know what the question is. They bring us down to what the question is, and the question was, what's the difference between first-degree murder and second-degree murder? So
that's crazy. Can you imagine sitting in court on the day of you're about to find out the jury's decision, your verdict, and the jury asked the question, what's the difference between first-degree murder and second-degree murder?
I already knew that they just decided if it's going to be first degree or second degree. So I already came in there with the energy of like, I'm convicted. Now, they are.
This is the crazy part. Watch this part. Watch the way he describes Kamala's reaction in court that day.
Already knew too. So that's why the courtroom was super packed. And you see Kamala Harris literally front row, opposite side on the defensive side. And, when they came with the verdict, guilty, me, I wanted to make sure I seen every nigga that was in that motherfucker on that side, not supporting me, and everybody else that was on that side. Because I knew, for one, I didn't do it. I stood on principle, and and I was gonna fight to ultimately get back. And I'll never forget when I turned around and I looked and I seen Kamala Harris. We locked eyes this one time, and she laughed. She literally just kind of busted out laughing, almost as in if she was pointing at it, like ha 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 ha. That's how I felt. Though she didn't point, but that's how I felt when she was laughing at the verdict coming down. So I took it in. It's like, all right, pause. And it was like, all right, whatever. So now the next thing that I need to figure out is how can I get a retrial before I get sentenced, right? I don't know. I'm learning all of this stuff. I'm learning the law. What is it that, it is? Nobody, out of everybody that was there, everybody knew I didn't do it, but niggas in their mind, they thought of it as even if you came and testified to say that I didn't do it and not say that somebody else did it, that's still telling. When it's not. Yeah, we ended up.
My point is this, right? Ann Coulter just learned the words foundational Black Americans this year. All these people on the red team who are talking about this is the first time they've ever got hip to what's real when it comes to foundational Black Americans in America, right? The FBA movement, the ADOS movement, it's been going on for a long time, and it's galvanized a lot of very powerful voices. And even away from just FBAs, if you look at broader Black populations, if you look at the broader people of color populations, there are real on the ground critics of what they've experienced, much like Jamal Trulove when it comes to Kamala Harris. You've got people like Ice Cube out here who does powerful reminders of what's at stake every election, and it can't all just be based off of fear. I mean, especially if you're talking the foundation of Black Americans. I mean, there's a huge, huge threat of us who are like, what's going to happen? We're going to be slaves again? Maybe. But that's already in our lineage. You know what I mean? There's so many voices that amplify whatever Ann Coulter was trying to say in a much more effective, efficient manner. And I think the red team is better off leaning on people who will do a better job of framing these conversations to the communities in which they're trying to reach. Because if it's between listening to Ann Coulter talk about foundational Black Americans and in the same breath saying white men are the real victims, I think you're going to have a whole lot of people that are still going to be dick riding for Kamala Harris. Let me know what you guys think about this. My name is Justin Hunt. Like, subscribe to the channel, follow at The Company Man on everything. It's all happening.
Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. The mathematical breakdown of this mighty game of rap we in. It's boom bapping. Systematical culture views us radical, it's all happening. Shaking hands and dapping it. Life through the lens of hip-hop, from trip-hop to yes, y'all, you don't stop, you don't stop. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. It's all happening, yes, it's all happening. Justin